answer all of them, but maybe I'll help you out with some, or at least do any research. Or do you guys have any comments on that? Go ahead,
and that plants don't have all the essential amino acids that we need, but some like eggs, milk has it, and eggs has it. Like how are we getting all our essential amino acids if we don't have some plant-based, like animal-based?
Plants do have all of them, but they're not all together in the same food. Like for example, broccoli may have most of them, whereas something like whole wheat may have most of them also, but in different amounts and different varieties. When you eat a varied diet, you're going to get all the essential amino acids you need. And you don't have to worry about matching them in a particular meal or anything. Your body, when you break them down, they go into your bloodstream and they stay there all day long. They're there for 12 to 20 hours. And so as long as you're eating a varied diet throughout the day, you're going to get all the amino acids you need for normal growth and health. And that was actually one of the things he addressed that helped promote cancer, is when you're eating these animal proteins that have all the amino acids, that's something that's associated with essentially being the fertilizer for cancer growth. Any other questions, guys? And again, like I said, I'm not necessarily qualified to answer all these questions technically, but this is based on what I've read, what I've come out with. So if anyone wants to add anything, I know there's doctors, nurses, that kind of thing in the room. Any other questions, comments?
Sure. I'm a little curious. You have the vegan bodybuilding shirt. Are you a personal trainer?
Well, what do you guys think?
Waiting for that promo.
Of course. I am the director of personal training at Gold's Gym, right across the street. My wife and I also have the site veganmuscleandfitness.com, and we're associated with veganbodybuilding.com. It's another very large site. We write articles for them. There's a huge forum on there with lots of vegan athletes. If you guys want to check it out, sign up. They're all very helpful answering questions. On our blog, which you guys can subscribe to by signing up in the back, we're always trying to post. My wife has great recipes. We're always posting. We write our articles on our exercise programs, things like that. So, to answer your question, yes.
And if you happen to catch Style Weekly's Best of Richmond issue a few weeks ago, he and Marcella are also the buffest vegans in Richmond.
Exactly. Age 96, I think.
96, 97, one or the other.
Just throwing that out there. Autographs are $15. Well, here's a question for you guys. How many of you guys have someone in your family who has ever had heart disease and or cancer? Go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, so full crowd. Heart disease is the #1 cause of death in America. Cancer is #2. Last time I checked, this may have changed. I think this was 2008 statistics. I believe stroke is #3. Someone can correct me on that. Stroke is also a vascular disease, just like heart disease. And those three right there cause almost 1 million deaths every year. 1 million. We talked about 9/11 was terrible because 2,000 or 3,000 people died. It was horrible, and obviously it was very bad. But 1 million, and those are diseases that could be almost completely prevented by changing the way you eat. So when you think about, okay, people aren't going to change their habits. This isn't that big of a deal. Think about the scope of these things. I think it's like 20% or 18% of our GDP goes to healthcare. And that's what, all these problems are with Obama trying to revamp the healthcare system and everyone's kicking and screaming. You don't necessarily have to change the policy, but if you start informing people on ways to eat better and, even just changing your diet a little bit, you can have drastic changes, reduce disease rates, save a lot of money for the country, and everything the film said so eloquently that I'm probably going to jumble.
And what about the fourth cause of death? It's the medical mistakes from people getting surgeries and stuff for their
Yes.
disease and everything, which is kind of scary.
Exactly. Things like improperly administered drugs or drugs properly administered that have side effects. You guys may know more about this, you guys in the medical field than I do, but I know it's up there on the cause of death is just errors or just problems in the medical system. People have adverse reactions, some surgery, there's always a chance of death with any surgery, things like that. So to avoid those things and just eat fruits and vegetables would be a little bit better. So any way you can promote, any way you can promote this in your own life, to the people you care about, to your friends, I suggest doing so. And it's just something to think about. There's great books out there. The China Study, which is Dr. Campbell's research, is at any major bookstore. Really good read. And it's for the layperson, so you don't have to have any kind of special degree to read it. That's what got me to change my diet when I read that, because I was very skeptical. I'm like, meat and dairy are good for you. You hear that since you're a little kid. I read that book and I completely stopped eating it. Felt tremendous differences, and you can ask my clients. I promote that with them too, and they notice the difference. So it goes from there. Check out our blog. Check out the book. There's also Dr. Esselstyn's book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, also at bookstores, as well as many, many others. More and more research all the time. So, thanks guys. Any comments?
Go ahead. Marcella made some delicious stuff, and there's some delicious stuff here. I mean, are there other restaurants around the Richmond area that you promote
Richmond area.
that I mean, maybe not personally promote, but you know of that, or someone that, like, I'm a very busy person, so a lot of times making vegan food it's not so friendly time-wise on the chain of things. So if anybody knows of any program out there or someone that has weekly meals that you need to pick up or have delivered or this sort of thing, or some sort of commissary that people get together and kind of like compare recipes, cook, this sort of thing.
We're going to do that. Actually, I was going to do like a weekly thing.
Right.
People could come, we could have like a tasting menu, I could do a cooking demonstration, we could do potlucks, stuff like that.
Right.
So check the blog for that. And then for restaurants, Fresca is awesome.
Yeah.
Nile, here, they've got some stuff. And Jeff's apparently going to have some healthier things too.
Well, they're going to have that. Jeff always has several vegan items. The black bean burger that we had tonight is featured here, things like that. There's also, Ipanema on Gray Street, Fresca, like she mentioned, very, very healthy. There's a lot of places in Richmond. There's many, many, and any ethnic cuisine really is much less focused on meat and dairy than a traditional
Just don't go to
American
American
steakhouse.
chain restaurants.
Yeah, American restaurants are just, here's your steak, here's your cheese, the salad has cheese all over it, everything's fried. If you go to, Thai food, Asian food, you get rice, vegetables, there's tofu, and then, meat also. It's not the centerpiece so much. Question back there?
I was just gonna say, I think it's hard because a lot of people associate a vegan diet with youth culture, and a lot of people are like, oh, you're young, you'll grow out of being vegan. And I think it's harder for older people to have access to a vegan diet and vegan functions, because I have a lot of friends who have vegan potlucks monthly. Like the Wignut Collective and Food Not Bombs has vegan potlucks all the time. And I don't know if an older person would feel comfortable attending that sort of thing, but I think there are a lot of vegan vegetarian restaurants around here too that people don't realize. Harrison Street, Ipanema.
Exactly.
And the Vegetarian Society, they do a potluck, and that's people of all ages too. I think they do that monthly.
That is a big issue, and I think part of the problem there is most people feel the same. And this is just me theorizing, so this is my own 2 cents. A lot of people feel that it's more of an emotional and ethical or political issue, not so much as objective as the information you've seen here, but really it's very cut and dry. It pollutes more, it decreases your health over time, it costs the country more money, contributes more to global warming, all those things. I think as that information becomes more well known by people like us, just being exposed to it and talking about it and learning about it on our own, I think more of the older, the other demographics of society will become more aware that this is something they should pay attention to, versus just people who are focused on animal rights. I don't want to eat animals because I care about them. That's good too. There's a whole myriad of other reasons to maybe change your diet. Even if that's the furthest thing from your mind, the way it was with me. I just want to live a long time, and when I realized I was giving myself heart disease, I'm like, I'll change my habits.
So now's a good time to mention Forks Over Knives.
Yes. Another movie just came out, Forks Over Knives. It's in DC. It focuses on the same 2 doctors, Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. Campbell, but it's much more of an emphasis on health, and particularly the health crisis in America. So if you guys found this interesting, if you want to learn more, that would be a very, very good film to see.
To take your older family members to.
Exactly. That and
It's
it
more
shows
the
also
side.
the athletic side of things. It shows athletes eating that way, how people completely change their health, have great results across the board. Many, many doctors involved. So if you guys want to learn more, if you guys are more interested in just the health background, that would be a very good movie to see. We're thinking of organizing a small group and maybe taking people up to DC, because it's an important film. We'd like to do that. It would be great if you came to Richmond, but there's nobody necessarily counting on that. So we'll see. We have some information for that film in the back. If you guys want, we have flyers, posters. You can go to forksoverknives.com, I think it is. Also. Good.
I thought the movie was really interesting.